Today on the audio hotline, I'm going to be showing you a budget condenser microphone. This is the Tonor TC20 Studio Kit, and it comes with pretty much everything you need aside from an audio interface and a computer, or some sort of recorder. So today we'll go through the basics, we'll talk about the specs, we'll test it out, and just so you know, there are some timestamps down below if you want to navigate through this video. But before we get into all of that, let's get mic'd. Welcome all audio nerds to the audio hotline, and as I said before, this is the Tonor TC20 and Studio Kit. You can get this studio setup for about $60 on Amazon. Now, one thing I will say about studio kits like this that are inexpensive is that it is kind of easy to become blinded by the sheer amount of things that come with this. They're throwing all of these accessories, all of these products at me. Of course this is worth $60. But if all of those accessories are absolutely terrible, it's not really adding any value. So we'll definitely go over all the accessories and everything and determine whether or not this is worth $60. Now, on a different note, there were a ton of YouTube creators that Tonor sent this studio setup to. Like a lot. And a lot of them only had great things to say about it. So either this is the most amazing studio setup for $60, or there are some creators that are kissing some serious Tonor ass. With that all being said, I should disclaim that Tonor did in fact send me this setup. And I'm a great ass kisser. Literally ask anyone. I'm just messing around. Tonor did send me this microphone, but I'm under no obligation to say it is good or anything like that. They do not get to view this video before I put it out. I would never lie to subscribers or viewers just to help a company out. That's just dumb. However, I would lie to a company to help subscribers out. I don't know how that would happen, but I'd do it. I would definitely do it. But I do want to say thank you to Tonor for helping this channel out and sending me some equipment to review. And speaking of thanking people, a subscriber actually sent me a gift recently. I offered to shout this person out, but they said they just wanted to do it to help out the channel and they didn't want any recognition. Just a super generous and super nice person. They actually sent me over this pop filter, which this is not a cheap pop filter. You know who you are, and I just want to say a big thank you. So as you probably just gathered, I am not using the provided pop filter right now. The other one is gigantic compared to this, so I just didn't want it to be right here the whole time. But now that we've gotten all the disclaimers and thank yous and everything out of here, now let's actually talk about the TC20. Let's talk about everything that comes with this studio kit. When you purchase the Tonor TC20 microphone and studio kit, you will get a boom arm. This boom arm can attach to your desk, and it also has a spot to hold headphones. This kit comes with a 5/8 to 3/8 inch microphone stand adapter. This features its own shock mount, a pop filter that can clamp onto the boom arm, cable ties, a foam windscreen, and an XLR cable. Last but of course not least, this comes with the microphone itself, the Tonor TC20. As I stated before, this kit does come with a lot of stuff. Now let me start with the thing that I'm actually most surprised about, is the quality of the boom arm. Yeah, it doesn't feel as sturdy as like the Rode PSA-1 or the Blue Compass or the RA boom arm that I reviewed a little while ago, the BAI-2N. But all of those stands are $100 or more. And this boom arm comes in a studio kit for $60. This stand is way better than the newer cheap little boom arms. So the fact that this boom arm is like so fluid and moves around really well and stays where you want it and is honestly built pretty well, this adds a lot of value to this studio kit. But we'll do some tests with the boom arm here in a little bit and see how it performs that way. Now the shock mount itself is very standard. If you were to just go on Amazon right now and buy the cheapest shock mount you could find, this would show up basically. It's definitely not a bad thing, but just even from the little bit that I've heard of me bumping the desk and everything, I can tell it doesn't do an incredible job. Now the build quality of this gigantic pop filter, it's okay. It's not poorly built, but this is plastic. The fabric feels really thin. But the gooseneck itself actually feels pretty good. I have definitely used and touched a lot of foam windscreens, and this one feels really cheap. But we'll see if it's effective here in a little bit. Now the microphone itself kind of feels like the newer cheap microphones, but just slightly heavier. It looks exactly like the newer body also. Now that doesn't always mean it's necessarily bad, but I will say the build quality on the mic is fine. Now for the most disappointing part of this kit, the XLR cable. Now, usually I'd just be like, oh, it's a cheap XLR cable, whatever, not great, probably want to upgrade eventually. But this one's a little bit different. Not only is it just your bottom of the line XLR cable, but one of my XLR connectors is bent. So I wasn't able to plug it into my Zoom H5, which I'm recording this on, or any interface for that matter. Now, I'm sure that this is just like a random thing that happened to me, and it probably doesn't happen to everyone or anything like that, but it definitely does make me question Tonor's quality control. Well, now that we've talked about the accessories and everything that comes in this studio kit, now let's go ahead and nerd out and talk about some specs. The Tonor TC20 XLR condenser microphone has a frequency response of 20 Hz to 20 kHz. This features a cardioid polar pattern, a sensitivity of -45 decibels, a max SPL of 120 decibels, a signal-to-noise ratio of 94 decibels, and a 16mm capsule size. Looking at the frequency response graph, the bass definitely starts a little bit lower than the rest of the frequency. It climbs up and does have a slight boost in the mids, followed by a slight dip around 4 kHz, and then it has a few boosts in the high end. The frequency response graph honestly shows something that I expected, and could definitely hear. It definitely has a boosted high end. That's definitely not always a bad thing though. When I'm recording a voice on a flat microphone, the chance that I'm going to boost the high end a little bit is pretty likely. It can just add a nice clarity and a nice shine to the recording. So having a microphone that already has that boost makes it a little less versatile, but it isn't always a bad thing, especially for people that don't want to do a lot of post-processing. But not every high-end boost is created equal. But now let's go ahead and move on to the really important stuff. Let's go ahead and start testing this microphone out. Now, for a couple things that you should know, during testing, I am recording this microphone with a Zoom H5. I didn't want to use something that had incredible preamps. This is kind of a beginner microphone setup, so I wanted to use something that just was average when it came to preamps. Now, during this testing, I will occasionally use the pop filter and the windscreen, but if you just pay attention to the lower third of this video, I'll label everything. Now let's go ahead and kick this off with a proximity effect test. Now if you want to get really close to the Tonor TC20, give it a little sniffy. It smells exactly like packing peanut sizz. Now if you want to get really close to the TC20 with the windscreen on, here's how it's going to sound. Now if you want to get this giant ass pop filter as close as you possibly can to the microphone, here's how it's going to sound. Now let's go ahead and test out some plosives. Peter Piper picked a patch of pickled peanutses. 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 Now, if you're a YouTube gamer or someone who's going to be typing on a keyboard really hard behind a microphone while you're talking to it, here's how it's going to sound. And these are MX Cherry Blue switches. Now let's go ahead and test this polar pattern with some white noise. Talking into the front, here's how it sounds. Talking into the side, here's how it sounds. Talking into the back, here's how it sounds. Now let's go ahead and see how good the shock mount and the boom arm are. I'm just going to hit the arm, see if it rejects the sound and the vibration and everything. I'll hit the desk, see how it does. Just gonna hit things, gonna break stuff like Limp Biscuits. Getting carried away. Now, if you plan on getting this microphone for podcasting or voiceover, or just simply anything where you're going to be putting some post-processing on it, here is how it could sound with just very simply a high-pass filter, some compression, maybe a limiter, maybe a de-esser. I'll go ahead and label whatever I use in the lower third of this video, or if I forget to do that, I'll put it in the description of the video. Now here's the same post-processing, but just without the pop filter in place. Once again, here's the same post-processing, but with the windscreen on, just to see if there are any tonal differences. Now if you want to get this microphone for ASMR, here's how it's gonna sound. No judgment. No judgment. Now, if you're some sort of crazy person that hates the look of microphones, so you like to keep it out of your camera shot, here's how it's gonna sound about 3 feet away from your mouth hole. Now that we've gone through the basics and the specs and we tested this microphone out, and I went back and listened to the testing and everything, now I'm ready to give you my review, my opinion of the Tonor TC20 and the studio kit. So I was actually just looking on Amazon, and you can get the T20, which is the boom arm, for about $40. That's at least the list price. They do sometimes have sales. But the T20 setup actually includes the pop filter, the windscreen, the cable ties. So basically the studio kit is just an extension of the T20, and all that it really includes is the XLR cable and the microphone. So the studio kit is $60 and the T20 setup is $40. So that leaves you $20. And I'd say that this microphone being about $15 to $20 makes sense to me. I definitely don't feel like it's an incredible sounding microphone. Like, I feel like it's fine. It's a little bit better than like the newer NW700s of the world, and it's definitely passable, and if it's what you can afford, I think you'll be okay with it. But you're definitely not getting a steal when it comes to sound here. Now, when it comes to the boom arm and the shock mount, I don't feel like they do a very good job of rejecting noise or sound or anything, so I do feel like you should be very careful about bumping your desk or anything like that. I mean, you should always be careful not to hit the microphone stand or the shock mount or the cable or anything like that, but just throwing it out there. The pop filter definitely worked well to reject plosives, even though it is gigantically big. The windscreen isn't great, it's fine, it does help. Now, as I stated before, I wasn't able to test out the XLR cable at all because it wouldn't fit into my interfaces or recorders because it was bent to shit. But to summarize, you're getting a lot of accessories, they all work, they're all functional aside from my XLR cable. But as I said before, the sound is just like fine. The high end can be a little bit harsh. Without a pop filter, the plosives are awful. It definitely doesn't have like a beefy or full sound or anything like that. Even when you get really close, you don't get that nice bass. You just get like a low, mid sound that's just kind of weird. There is a mid-low frequency in there that bugs me a little bit. But for a lot of people, it still would probably be a pretty big improvement. The boom arm's actually really nice when it comes to like how it moves around and stays in position. My buddy wanted to come hang out, so here we are. He's my little cross-eyed kitty. He's a cutie. But overall, with the boom arm being good and some of the accessories working well, I think that this is worth the money. You're just not getting like a steal, but I do think it would be hard to put together a studio kit that would be less money, that would be better. But you gotta remember that you still need that audio interface and computer or like a Zoom recorder. You still got some things that you need aside from this. So the grade that we give the Tonor TC20 is a C. Blue here is gonna explain what that means.
A C is like average, man, you know, like in high school. If you were a C student, you were just like, whatever, it's average.
A C means it's exactly worth its cost. It's not a steal. It's not bad. It just is what it is. You don't like it? He doesn't like this microphone, he said. Now, thank you all for watching this review of the Tonor TC20. I hope that it helped you out, helped you decide whether you want to get one of these or not. But most of all, we hope you had fun. Stay tuned for a lot more reviews and comparisons. There's a lot more coming up. And a big thank you to all of our subscribers. We appreciate every single one of you. And just so you know, if you do want to help this channel out, there is Audio Hotline merch, and there will be a description down below. But once again, thank you all for watching the Audio Hotline. I'll see you audio nerds next time.